Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Training Unleashed. Of the Learning Network, I want to thank you for all of you for being here. I also want to thank our sponsors, C-Suite TV and C-Suite Radio. Today, we're going to have an interesting conversation because I think we're going to talk about something that is so confusing to people, yet so utterly simple. And we've got a true expert. We have the founder and CEO of InclusionINC. Her name is Shirley Engelmeier, and she's also an author of a new book, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I'm going to just ask you, why is there so much disinformation and confusion around DE&I?
Hey, great to be with you, first of all. The confusion is a result of what I call a fringe ideology and a disinformation campaign. I can't tell you why, but while we were all in the throes of doing great work after the murder of George Floyd and the global awakening, people who didn't want that to happen through think tanks and individuals were concocting ways to put this disinformation forward, and it's finally borne fruit in about the last year.
So one of the things that I think is distinctly interesting is the difference between DE&I and affirmative action. And maybe take a moment, because I think this is where the confusion is. I think people think that DE&I and affirmative action are the same thing, and they are distinctly different.
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, affirmative action was a legal requirement for certain numbers of women or people of color to be promoted. That's decades ago. I think what happened then, though, Evan, is that in certain cases, people were put in positions that they really didn't have the background for. They weren't part of the robust talent pipeline and the development process that went with that. I think it's critical to think about the distinct difference between inclusion, diversity, and equity. And if I may, I'd love to just give you a brief overview of how we've approached that. The inclusion means I want your voice to be heard to drive business success. That's what it means. Everybody should be included. It's not just on primary dimensions or what some of those affirmative action legal requirements were for. Diversity is those dimensions of difference, race, ethnicity, sex, sexual orientation, and so on. But it's also, where did you grow up? What's your career path? Do you have experience? Don't you? And so if you think about first, you're going to create a culture of inclusion, and then you focus on all these dimensions of difference. If you put those two together, equity will be the result, and belonging will be how I feel as a result of that. And that was for the leaders after George Floyd was murdered. I'm in Minneapolis. I point to the right, like 5 miles from here, and there was a global awakening. We were hunkered down in COVID. You know, it was this term DEI just like flew across the stage. You had leaders before that. They're already scared to talk about inclusion or diversity or what's the difference. And now they're supposed to understand DE&I. So for me personally, I've facilitated for like 22,000 leaders in the past roughly 5 years. And they love the clarity of thinking, oh, creating a culture of inclusion is great for business. Oh, why do I need difference? Because my population's changing of who I'm selling goods and services to.
So what I'm hearing you say is that DE&I is really about listening, inviting diversity, and ultimate result is it's good for business. It's not a social program. It is a program that creates better and more enhanced businesses. And in your TEDx talk, which I highly recommend people go and check out, you make a statement that I thought was very interesting, which is that you said that diversity, equity, inclusion can increase engagement in businesses by about 25%. And I'm a big believer in engagement in businesses. To me, listening to people, involving people creates better ideas. Whether it's a diverse group of people or a non-diverse group of people, engagement's important. But how does DE&I improve engagement?
So that was these inclusion behaviors that you heard were the results of that. And I so appreciate the question. We had validated from a US centric basis what the top inclusion behaviors were. And they're, as you say, hey, ask me. I'm the one who does this work. It also said, I need to give you rationale for how decisions are made. We realized we hadn't validated those globally and we hadn't come up with a formal return on investment. That's what you're referring to in our Global Inclusion Index study we did across 14 countries and across all, from the C-suite to the front line. And it not only said that when these behaviors are used, people will be 25% more engaged. It also said they'll be 20% more innovative and 4 times more likely to stay. If you think
Wow.
about the power of that, and Evan, we're not asking anybody to spend one more dollar. It's just how you and I interact during the day. It's me thinking about who else maybe could have input for this. And that seems to be mind blowing to people. It's back to the point that you just made is it's for everybody. It's not just for dimensions of difference.
In a lot of ways, it's just really about being mindful and really taking the time to include people and to look for great people that create a diverse background. An analogy I like to use is that great businesses look, ignoring race, sex, all of those things, for personality types to bring balance to the business. If you had everybody that was a promoter and just rah, 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 which tend to make great salespeople, but you didn't have people that were analyzers to do the books and all the different personality types there are, you wouldn't have a successful business. In the same way, if you don't have people from different backgrounds, different experiences, etc., it's hard to understand all those backgrounds to be really good at marketing to those groups, providing programs and services to those groups. Is this hitting home?
It's hitting a lot of what you're talking about, the dimensions of difference or the dimensions of diversity. It's way more than race, ethnicity, sex, sexual orientation. The one place that we like to help people in understanding diversity is this. It's twofold. $7 trillion of the US spend, according to CELIC, is by multiracial, multi-ethnic groups. That by 2026 is going to be 30% of our economy. Don't ask me how to sell to those people. Don't ask me to create products for that because I don't have the insight. So one of the purposes of literally visually diversifying your workforce is so that you can match or mirror current customers or clients or ones you're trying to attract. Everybody wants that. And then the second point on that is the point that you made about it is going to drive better business ideas. MIT has a study that was done by a professor there that said homogeneity results in more mistakes and less innovation in companies. Because I go, oh, Evan, he's really smart. I'll just yield to his idea. And we come together in conformity more quickly.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is absolutely true. Why is there such resistance?
It's such an important question, and it's such a hard question. When I look at, first off, I think there's a misunderstanding of it. I think your point about its affirmative action, like people still have that stuck in their mind. When we work with executives, and I'm using a bit of a sarcastic, mocking tone here. I've heard this forever, but we have to hire qualified people. What's the implication? The implication is that we're asking you to hire unqualified people. We are not. You can't grow your business as the rate that you need to. So that's one part of it. I personally, I wrote this book earlier in the year, Evan, not because I was planning to, but because when I realized the level of disinformation that was going on behind the scenes, or at the same time, like post George Floyd, when the rest of us were I'm going, well, finally, companies get it. They're doing this because it makes sense for business. What I call the ideologues were busy saying things like, white men are being discriminated against in this country. Claremont Institute president, one of his premises. And the Claremont's important because they're the ones who created this legislation that is going with quick fire speed across public universities in all of the states to say, hey, Evan, here's the legislation to pass to kill DEI. So why are you saying that? And he also, the president, Ryan of Claremont, said, the United States is for a Christian people only. Anything other than that, DEI is mortal threat to the Constitution. I can't explain why he's saying that. I can simply lift up, that's so off track, it's unbelievable. The other part that I don't understand is when I looked at, and I really got possessed with this, Evan. I thought I was going to write a white paper when I first saw it. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how rampant the disinformation is. Most of the people who are pushing the disinformation from the think tanks are white, highly affluent, most of them quite wealthy, from what I can tell, men. And I just don't understand. Is it potentially loss of place that by the year 2050, we as white people will be the minority population? I don't have a handle on the why. I can tell you that they have outpaced those of us who really believe in it and out messaged us in a huge way that people now believe it's a organic pushback rather than an orchestrated disinformation campaign that's come to the forefront.
So I'm going to say this in more plain speak.
Okay.
I think that there is racism and sexism that people don't believe that there are equal quality people to create a truly diverse and equity, and thus it must be affirmative action because they are simply prejudiced.
I could completely go there with you.
Yeah.
I can go there with you.
Now, to the point you made earlier, and I'm building on this point, you talked about the size of the Latino market in the United States. I was listening to CNBC this morning, and they said that if you took the economic output of the Latino population in the United States, it would be the fourth biggest economic country in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, think about it, fourth biggest. If you're going to market to the Latino marketplace, you need to, as a company, understand that.
You're so on track with that. I mean, I used to work at Frito-Lay, and I thought, why would we have focus groups with Latinos or Latinx? Why don't we have people working here that are in marketing? They may now have that, but at the time, I'll just bring in some focus groups. No,
Yeah.
You're right. And you're hitting on my main point always has been that this is about business. Do you want those dollars? Everybody does. That being the fourth largest, economy, I think you said in the world, did you, or the country?
Yeah, the world.
Yeah, that's just like amazing. Everybody wants that. And yet when it comes to internally, you go, well, I'm just not sure if Jose's ready. I'm not sure if Shirley's ready. because of the bias that people bring to that.
Hey everyone, I want to take a moment and talk to you about the Learning Network. As you know, the Learning Network is a sponsor of this show, and I just want to tell you what a special company it is. Back in 2003, 6 learning companies were brought together and merged into one, a powerhouse, a company that literally, if it's in training, the Learning Network can handle it. I am so proud to be affiliated with the Learning Network and its team of learning professionals. Contact us today by going to learning.net and learn more about the Learning Network and how we can help your company go to the next level. So what has happened is there are groups of people that are willing to economically boycott companies that are in the terminology too woke. And we're starting to see large corporations announce that they're dismantling their DE&I program.
Yep.
How is it? Yeah, it makes you boil. It makes me boil too. And to be honest, I believe a lot of companies are doing this to protect their businesses, but they're not in reality really doing it. I think they are placating a set of the population, but their HR departments are big and vast, and they're trying to accomplish it in other ways because it is absolutely more profitable and brings more value to their stock otherwise, but they're concerned about retribution. And this is going to be the last question before we shift the show into another direction. How does the individual person working in a company stand up and support DE&I initiatives?
In this environment, I think it's extraordinarily difficult. We started the year with our 2 largest clients saying, this isn't priority for us anymore. Why? Because they're worried about pushback. These 6 companies that fell in the last 2 months were the result of one individual, Robbie Starbuck, on X, whipping up pressure. Why haven't these organizations, this is slightly different than what you asked, told everybody internally why they're doing this, why specifically they need certain population groups, and why haven't they used their brilliant marketing people to say publicly on an ongoing basis, this is why we're doing this. It makes sense for business. It's good for our product. It's good for you for more variety, better prices, and it's great for the economy. So the individual contributors that we talk with, honestly, they're terrified. They're worried about losing their jobs. They're worried about not having any other place to go. It's having a massive, massive impact.
Yeah. Well, Shirley, this has been an interesting conversation. I think our listeners would love to know more about your book, more about your company, and what you do. So why don't we shift gears here and tell us a little bit about the book and your company, please?
Yeah, InclusionINC works with industry-leading companies to prove the performance and business case of creating a culture of inclusion. We do that by training leaders in learning over time strategies, self-assessments, 360s. We do it at the front line through e-learning. There's a way to get this message across to people, both through the consulting and through the learning. You can find us at InclusionINC.com. If you want to be...
Say it one more time. Say the URL one more time.
Sure. Of course, www.inclusion-inc.com. If you want to become part of us sharing some of the tips, not big newsletters, just some, oh my gosh, this just happened. 6 companies have fallen in the last 2 months. Consider this internally. Just add in the know to the back of that. The book is called Deliberate Disruption. We on purpose made a really scary cover because it
It's
is
a cool cover.
scary.
For those not watching on C-Suite TV or our YouTube channel, it's a really cool looking cover.
Well, it has a font that is, we hope, communicating urgency, and the rest of the title is Unraveling the Anti-DEI Ideology and Getting Back to Why DEI Works. It is available right now on Amazon as an ebook, and we'll have an Audible up there within about 6 weeks.
Well,
We'd love to chat with you.
that's fantastic. So just one last time, you have a special part of your website for people that want special and extra information, knowledge, and things. So why don't you give that URL one time,
You
just for
bet.
everyone? Yeah.
Sure. And that's inclusion-inc.com/in the know.
In the know. Very cool.
In the know. Thank you.
So Shirley, as you know, and as our listeners are in the know, we always end every episode with one tip. And if you had one tip to share with our audience, what would that tip be?
Don't cower. Don't fall prey to the disinformation. Utilize the true information about the power of inclusion, diversity, and equity to your business's success.
Love it. Great tip. On behalf of the Learning Network, thank you for being a guest. On behalf of the Learning Network, I want to thank the audience. Of course, I want to thank our sponsors, C-Suite TV and C-Suite Radio. Encourage people to go to our YouTube channel, Training Unleashed Network, and subscribe. And of course, people can go to our website, trainingunleashed.net, where all of Shirley's URLs will be nicely printed out and easy to access, and more information. So everyone have a great day, and thank you very much.